Hey guys, it's Brave here, back out of the +12 stonevault prot warrior POV video. So you just pulled to the end of the hallway here, we lost. Now on this opener, I like to use my shield wall while I'm gathering up stuff, hit the demo shout. Make sure I got my ignore pains up. Keep the shield block up. And then it's pretty simple, you face the mobs away from your group so they don't do the frontal at the group. That's about it. I like to try and chain pull this next pack as soon as I can, that way we have at least a few seconds of lust for it. May as well try and get the most value out of lust. Again, you're facing these big guys away from your group. You're doing AoE frontal that stuns, it's not a good thing. This pack has 2 fears, so as a tank I like to try and make sure I'm going to interrupt one of them. Again, I'm facing the frontal away from my group. There I get my interrupt on one of the fears, and then it's a rinse and repeat. Once I'm sure that this golem isn't going to cast another AoE, I go ahead and I'm going to grab the next 2 golems, because I may as well try and get some extra cleave damage when possible. Now, whenever the golems overlap their AoEs, it's a little scary for the group. Healer just has to be ready for it. Get everyone topped up quick. Okay, so for this boss, tanking, it's mostly just a movement thing. When a coordinated group, you should do 2 volcanic pops every time. So, you see here, I'm trying to line the boss up so one guy can get 2. I think you just want to get 2 every time. It's a lot easier for the healer to heal through. So as long as you get 2 every time, it's not that bad. But 3 is really pushing it. If you get 3 and then plus the big AoE, you can lose people if you're not using defensives properly or your healer doesn't have cooldowns. Always just try and move the boss where you can get 2. Spikes popped. So as you see here, we're gonna get 3 spikes popped. So I'm gonna send my rally because I know the big AoE's coming right up, and our healer still even dives through it. Luckily he has incarn. But you gotta be really careful about popping spikes here. It's the main thing on this fight. The best way to do it is just 2, 2, and 2, and then the damage is never too spiky for the healer. So for the next pull, I typically go to Skarmorak next. If you have a really coordinated group, you can pull both the starter packs together, and that's a riskier pull, but it does save time. If you have like a DK to do grips and stuff, it's not so bad. Sometimes I like to double this if all my DPS have all their cooldowns up, but if they don't, I'll just take this as a solo pack, and then I will double the next pack with the patrol. As you can see, the pat's coming back in. We got a double. I'm gonna pop the spear. Really just wanting to make sure you kick the howlers to make sure you guys aren't taking a whole bunch of damage. Because each howl stacks, and then the next howl does more damage, and the next one does more. And so those are big priority kicks. And then you want to make sure you're kicking the silences, especially if they're on your healer. Don't want those going off. So for this pack, with every voidbound despoiler, you can actually reflect their claw, and it does a lot of damage. Did almost 11 million damage back to that mob. So it speeds up killing that mob a lot. You always want to try and reflect those. And then with this pack, you just want to make sure you're kicking the howls, and that's about it. Good dreams, little muffin. Now in this pack, I like to let the voidbound despoiler pad over to these 2 rocks because there's less AoE like casts going off, and if you don't do the kicks correctly on the other pole during this pulsing AoE, you can kind of maybe lose people. So you just gotta, I prefer pulling with this one. It's a lot easier in my opinion. So I come to Skarmorak first so we can must it. I think it's probably the hardest boss in this dungeon, to be honest. It's important as a tank you move the boss to the correct shards that you want to be popping. As a tank, I'm always focusing these shards. I'm trying to help the most DPS I can do to these. It's important that you don't break them all at once or overlap really, or you can wind up killing people. I'm always trying to ping which shards I want killed. There's an auto marker. Just trying my best to help damage out. Now, as a healer, you want to be making sure you're picking up orbs early on in the fight. And as a tank, you're going to not pick up any orbs pretty much ever. You're really going to want your DPS to pick up quite a few orbs here when you're healing. As a tank, you really don't want orbs. But again, positioning this boss is really important as a tank. You always want to be able to cleave the shards and the boss. You never like don't want to be able to cleave, so I'm always charging around, I'm moving the boss effectively, I'm moving him as quick as I can. Focusing the shard myself, letting the DPS cleave. Again, it's important not to break shards at the same time. You get a debuff, and then the next shard you break does like 50 to 100% more damage. Here we break 2, you can see it does a ton of damage. And we barely get the last one killed before he gains a big shield. Any shards that you don't, effectively like clear, are gonna be just too much shield for you to be able to heal through. Just always make sure you're playing for your life as DPS on this boss as best as possible. Pretty much if one DPS dies on this, it's a tragedy, and you just get really behind. And once you're behind, it's just so hard to catch back up. Here, my demon hunter taunts the boss and kills himself. So, I'm trying to focus, kill this shard back here. He gets battle resed and picking up orbs to try and help DPS. I'm gonna charge back in and do my best. You can see there's lots of pulses going off. Our healer's down. We lose our mage and our demon hunter, and now it's just me and the warlock. So here I'm just gonna commit to killing the boss. It's sloppy, but with the execute buff, Prot's huge.
Look for a service tunnel nearby. You should be able to take a minecart back to central processing.
So here for this pull, it's pretty easy. There's nothing really important, just interrupt. The arcing voids you can kick. Maybe here if you're low on resources, just send a shield wall. You don't really need it for future pulls. You can always shockwave. I just didn't lose anything. I'm not procced. I'm gonna try and save your proc because you'll need it after this next pack here. With this pack, I like to double it with the front loader. There's nothing really going on here. Your DPS just has to dodge the frontal. I try and always ping it as best as I can. Just try and kick the alloy bolts too. And all in all, it's a pretty easy pull. Alright, this is the most difficult pull for a tank in the entire dungeon. Technically it's like a triple pull. You need to just be really careful. I like to get the pat from the far end. That way I don't get one shot immediately. If you have all of them hit you at one time with no like shield roll up, you can just die. And the important thing here is to watch your debuff. If the stacks get too high and then the defensive's up, you need to kite like I am here. Waiting for it to fall off. Once it falls off, I'm going to be able to charge back in, clean them up. Easy peasy. So on the hierarchies, I always go this right path right here. I prefer the pat to be where it is, a shockwave, because I don't have any defensives up. I'll almost die instantly after the shockwave falls. Go ahead and use the defensive, get back to full HP. Just gotta be careful on the start of these pulls when you don't have anything up. They'll hit you, it can be really scary. But I like to pull this to the right, because you can get the alloy. It's 10% burst buff for 10 minutes, which is really useful for this next boss.
It's too far away.
Here you can see the little anvil, it's sparkling. That means that's the little thing you gotta click to get the 10% versatility buff. Or I think you have to be blacksmith, or you can be warrior or dwarf or something else. If you have method dungeon tools, you can actually go in all the dungeons and look and see what professions can be used throughout them. It's a really useful tool. If you have a coordinated group and you have like a DK, you can actually just tag these guys, get aggro, and then go to the next pack and just grip them in. This pull's nothing special, just a standard pull. Just try and kick the alloy bolts, stun them, do what you can, get the stops out.
Machine speakers in the stonevault. Fanatically loyal, no doubt.
For this boss, there's really not too much going on for tank. It's mostly a positioning based fight. The loader has a big tank buster mechanic, but it doesn't hit that hard. Mostly you just want to avoid the frontals as a tank. And then need to position so your allies have the best chance of not dying for the frontals as well. So once that big old cube goes through, I like to take them to the center of the room, because next is going to be the orbs, and then you need to get into the little smoke area. That's going to be the safe zone. Make sure you get the kicks out. That's another thing, is the interrupts are really important. If one goes through, it can wipe your group. Here, as long as you're in the middle of this, you just easily dodge the orbs, no big deal. I know the next boss mechanic's gonna be going through the middle, so I try and keep them away from the middle. Dodge the frontal. Up in the smoke area, you always want to try and bring them to the smoke so you avoid the puddles as well. I'm watching to make sure we kick. As a warrior, if you don't have a ranged DPS that can kick, you can just heroic loop over and kick it every time. Sometimes I'll have to do that. But again, I'm looking for where the smoke is. The little puddles haven't disappeared yet, so it feels a little bit awkward. But we handled it no problem. We got plenty of time. There's actually a lot of time to get to the little smoke area. I know the next mechanic's gonna be the frontal through the middle, so I'm not bringing them through the middle. And the little safe spot, watching the frontal. That's about it for this fight. Just rinse and repeat at this point. One more thing is you need to kill these bosses together, otherwise they'll do pulsing damage that pretty much kills you, and that's no good. We got a good safe zone here. Didn't have to move at all for the last 3 safe zones, and killed the boss together, easy peasy.
Look for another minecart. If it's here, we might as well use it, unless you'd rather walk. I need to get closer.
So for this, if you don't have a class that can use like sap, like monk, demon hunter, you'll just have to walk back and not use the cart. But if you have like a sap or something, you can just sap that mob and then just use the cart. Saves a little bit of time. For these guys, I like to stack them up in this little hallway. There's a little corner right here. I like to have most of the group face one direction so they're not flying off into like nowhere, because it just kills time. On this pull, I'm charging in, making sure I get aggro on everything, gonna get stun out, making sure I'm interrupting, trying to ping the frontals so my allies are aware. Other than that, it's pretty simple. Just avoid the circles, get the kicks out, no big deal. For this bull here as a tank, the stone bolters are gonna be summoning totems here. I'm trying to save my shield slam for him. So I hit it for 700k. It's a big portion of its health, just helps DPS out a whole bunch. Again, I hit a big shield slam on it. Really just helps DPS out, so I have to pile it or focus it, etc. Reflecting these bolts are really good. There's a lot of damage back to him. And then once this dies, we're gonna go to the next pull, and we're gonna bring the next pull to us. That way there's no like double pull. If you double pull this, I'm pretty sure it's a wipe every time. And there's no way you can just live through it. Too many totems, too many circles, too much AoE damage. And the bolts actually hit tanks quite hard. But again, I'm focusing totems where I can. And then it's just a rinse and repeat of the last one. Here, damage is a little bit low because our warlock's gone or something, and we get an unlucky last slam. And so if you have another slam, if you're full stack of slam on you, a debuff for 30 seconds, you gotta wait until it's gone. Otherwise, it'll end up killing you. Because this next rock will give you the debuff as well, and that's just not good. For this boss, it's pretty simple. I like to think I'm in the middle of the room here. But it's not really a tank buster. Really for this tank, it's pretty boring. I mean, not much going on for tanks. For DPS though, I was trying to revive a warlock, but I didn't keep just like DC'd out. For tank, if you can, get the debuffs all the way out. Whenever you get the damage over time on you, you clear it last as tank every time. Honestly, if you're like a sustained tank, you don't even need to worry about removing it right away either, but you know, you may as well just get rid of it whenever the other two have got rid of it. I always like to try and put the little puddle in the same spot as a tank. It does not do that much damage to you. Our warlock's DC'd here, so our damage is going to be really tight. Again, I'm just going to go stack my puddle up, keep the boss in the middle of the room. And with these damage over times, I'm going to always just be the last person to clear every time. So here I see that we have 40 seconds left. And so I'm just gonna hold my debuff. I'm gonna stop using my ignore pains. And I'm gonna just start pressing execute and using my defenses. Here, healer spirit linked. I was trying to let myself block and I was just gonna full heal. I'm not gonna run my debuff out very far. Charge back in. I'm just executing as much as I can. And I'm just executing. And I end up timing it just barely. We had 6 seconds left to go. Easy time even with a DC. The boss is so easy. Skarmorak is by far the hardest boss in this place, but if you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to like and subscribe. Don't forget to give me any comments, any feedback you guys might have.
Well done, my friends.
Until next time, see you later.